Okay, Kate. So thanks for meeting with with me today. I hope that was helpful for you. Here's how to do those two things that we talked about on our in that meeting. The first is doing the notifier so that if you wanted it to say something else. So I've got a notifier, just a real simple app. So my app just has a title and a button. That's it. Um, and So what I'm going to do to begin with is that what we've done previously is when we made we've just used this show alert thing, but then down below that are these two other things that we can do as well. And so this first one is, do you want to have a couple of extra buttons in there? You do need to have all of those parameters filled in. You have to have a message and a title. What's the text for button one? What's the text for button two? Cancelable is so if they cancel it, cancel gets sent back. In our case, if the question is, do you want to play again? The answer is either yes or no. So it might make sense to flip that to false, so that's not going to happen. If you're the answer is A or B, and then cancel. It's neither A and it's not B, so you're given kind of a third option if you're to do that. This is a Boolean; it's either going to be true or false. That cancel option is either going to be there or it's not. So the message in your case might be something like, "Do you want to play again?" Want to play again? Question mark. It needs a title. That's what's on the menu bar at the top. And you could put the exact same thing that just looks repetitive in my mind. That's aesthetics. So maybe it's game over. All right, so that's the menu at the top, or the title bar at the top of the pop-up. And then it's going to say, the question is, do you want to play again? And the answer is either going to be yes, or it's going to be no. Yes. Oops. There we go. Yes, exclamation point. And I'll just copy that. And not right now. So when the button is clicked, what's going to happen is this is going to pop up, and that message, and with that, all this stuff that's going to come in. And so you can kind of see there. So if I click on the button, I get that notifier pops up, and so notice that it's got yep and not right now backwards. And if I click on one of those things, then the thing's going to go away, and nothing really happens. That's an event, so it is waiting for this event to happen, and that's this guy here. So I'll delete it, and that is also delete. Is so under the notifier, here are all of these events that can happen. So after the input text is canceled, or after choosing canceled, what should happen if that was the thing? You're not inputting a text, so if you prompted them, type your name, response gets assigned to that, and that's going to be stored in this variable. This is the one we want. If it's just this button, and the choice is going to be what is the label of that button. So the variable choice is either going to be yes exclamation mark or not right now, without punctuation. So just to kind of prove my point, maybe we're just going to alert that. So this is kind of dumb, but if you want to see, well, what is choice exactly? If I stick that in here, now when I click on my button, there's my message, and then I get that notifier that says yes exclamation point backwards. And if I did it again and chose not right now is going to be output. So whatever is in the text of the button, that's what gets passed as choice over here. So now that you know that, you don't necessarily want to output that thing, but now you're going to do, you want to do something with that. So if they say yeah, you're going to do one thing, and if they say no, you're going to do something else. So I'm going to test to say if it's yes, that's you might call your procedure to restart the game and reposition the worm or whatever it is that you've got going, and everything's, then you're off to the races. So I'm going to put choice on one side, and it's got to match up exactly how this is. So I'm just going to copy that block and stick that into that side. So if it's not game over, that would be wrong. So it's going to be this guy. So yes, exclamation point. So now if choice is that, then if I'm going to say great, here we go. And if not, it's going to say something else. So we can just hit, there we go. Get another text block, slap that in there. And so if it, then I'll say great, here we go. And otherwise, it will say something else. We'll say, see you next time. All right. So again, so the button is clicked. This dialog pops up. In your case, whatever's going to click that end the game thing, they hit a wall, I think. Might prompt them to do that. Do you want to play again? Yes or no? You've got to have this event happen. If the choice comes back, yes, I do, then all the code for restarting it is going to happen. Otherwise, again, maybe you're going to output something else. Just to prove that it's right, here's my button. I click the button. There's the prompt. That's the same. Yes, then it says, great. Here, away we go. Here we go. And if otherwise, it says, see you next time. All right, backwards. Right. Hopefully that makes some sense, and that's kind of cool. The other thing that you asked about was, oh, it'd be cool to do a timer kind of a thing. And so for that, what you're going to do is you're going to need a couple variables. Start. I called mine start and end. And so I'm going to change this for a second. So we'll do a kind of a start stop thing and output what that's going to. So that'll say begin. All right. And so now what I'm going to do is I want to know when do they start and when do they end and how much time was elapsed in between those. So I'm going to do an if statement to find out, and you may not necessarily need this if. I'm going to have one button that's going to do both just because I'm lazy and don't want to put in two buttons. So if the button says begin, oops, expand, and I want that here. And grab an else. All right. So if the button text says begin, sorry about that. says begin. I think I capitalized it. Then I'm going to want to do a couple things. One is I want to change that to something else. So it says begin, and I'm going to change the text to say something else like stop. And I'm going to copy that, duplicate it. And so if it doesn't say begin, well, then I know it says stop. So I want to reset it to begin the second time. And so now it's going to toggle back and forth. All right, which is not at all what you were asking for. All right, so now what I want to do is if it says begin and they click on it, I'm going to assign start to this value, and you are going to need to throw in a clock. And we used the timer and we counted down from some number down to a smaller number, to 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to get 2 different times. We'll subtract the 2, and that'll be the difference that it actually took to do things. And so one of these things down here, if you scroll down, down, one of them is it's this guy here. So get millis is going to give you the number of milliseconds since January 1, 1970, which is kind of a random date. And then notice it also has a parameter. And so it needs to know, well, when do you want to get the number of milliseconds? And you could go out and get a date and time and find out how many milliseconds from that. But one of them is like now or something. There we go. It's clock.now. So the start time is going to be how many milliseconds have happened since January 1, 1970. And then if I click the button a second time, we're going to do the exact same thing, except we're going to switch it. And instead of it being the start button, it's going to be the end button. So now what we've done is we've put a number of milliseconds in start, a second number of milliseconds in end. Make sure that I change that. And then maybe what I'll just notify what is the difference between them. It's milliseconds, so that's 1,000th of a second. Maybe I only care about seconds. Maybe you don't necessarily need to go down to point whatever. That'll be up to you to kind of figure out. So I could do just the easiest thing to do would be to say, okay, well, when the end button is clicked, after I get the end time, now I want to output what's the difference between those two. And so that's simply mathematics. That's just going to be a subtraction. I'm going to subtract end global end from start. All right, so end is going to be a bigger number. There's more milliseconds in end than there are in start, so it's going to be a positive number. If you get what I'm doing there. And subtract start. If you get a negative number, just flip what you're subtracting, it'll be positive. So here we go. Here's my little app with my button, and now it says begin. I click on it. It now says stop, and we'll let some time go by. And then when I click it the second time, that pops up, which is a big number. And so maybe you want to throw that in a variable if you wanted to hang on to it. And so that's how many milliseconds have there been. You can divide it by 1,000, and that would be how many seconds. That seems like a good thing to do. So divide that by 1,000. And you are going to get a fraction, or a decimal rather. So now what happens is there's my begin, and it's running. It says stop, and then I do it a second time, and now I get 5 point something 9. And just one last thing. This is above and beyond the call, perhaps, but if you wanted to get rid of that, you can do this guy here. You want to floor it, or maybe round. Maybe that'd be a better way. So that was, the last one was 9 point or 5.9 something. It should round up to 6. So if you were to round that, it would go to 6, and it would be 6 seconds. Who's going to know that you're hundreds of seconds off? So again, one more time, just to prove my point. It's running. There's stop. It was 3 seconds between the start and the end. Cute. Hopefully that works. Hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to go back and forward, obviously. And if I went too fast, something wasn't real clear, where would you get that? Let me know, and I'll be happy to answer those questions. All right, see ya.